To them, it's just 4 planks and 1 leg. We will ask...
4 planks and 1 leg?
Sorry.
Or why don't we lower the price to make it affordable for uni students?
Yeah.
And then I think you said, there's a wood table.
Hello! And welcome to this week's episode of the Ugly Wood Company Podcast.
Oh, we are your hosts for today,
Glennard
and Nicole. So what are we going to talk about today?
Okay, so today we are going to talk about how we price our woodworking services.
Okay, so when we talk about pricing for our services, right? I have received like comments from relatives, from friends, from family, saying that our services are very expensive, and why is it not cheaper?
Right, so I think the one that hits the closest to home is when my father-in-law, your father,
Oh yeah.
what did he say?
Oh, I think he went to see our website, and then he saw that our workshops are priced at like the cheapest one we have was 95, and then he asked me, oh, like why is it expensive? Like, have you all thought about making it cheaper so that it can reach greater audiences? Or like one of our products, same thing, like why is it so expensive? He's asking in more of the sense that if we price it so expensive, then it can't really reach a greater audience.
Yeah. So most of the kind of comments or feedback about pricing, right? I want to say it comes from a good place because very naturally we think from a consumer perspective, the cheaper you price, the more people can buy, then you are more successful. So
like you sell low and you just bank on
quantity.
So
one of the things about economics that maybe not everyone will understand, right? It's you don't succeed in business by selling a lot. You succeed in business by making money.
Okay.
Right. So that's not just in terms of quote unquote success, but it's also in terms of just survival. Because if you sell everything at a loss, at a break even, $0 profit, or just a very, very small profit, you will still need a very, very high amount of sales, like sales quantity, sales volume, to make up for that that profit lah. Because we have fixed costs, right? We have like certain costs that we have to pay every month, or we have certain costs that we have to keep upkeeping our
like
equipment, our maintenance, our subscriptions, things like that, right? So it is not something that it's not the direction we want to go in terms of the strategic direction. So so not to sound like I am kind of putting down some of this advice, but it really comes from, and I understand also where it comes from. In order to succeed, you want to be very popular, very viral, as they say.
Oh.
Right, it's, get as much popularity as possible. In our case, right, where it gets a bit complicated, it's because production capacity, which means how many things I can make at one time, is limited. I don't own a factory, we just own a studio, very small studio. So anything that we do, we have to keep that in mind, that we cannot just keep scaling our production capacity infinitely as demand increases. So to use another example, right? Let's say you are a chef or you are a hawker store owner. Okay. If you only make one bowl of noodle, obviously you're not earning a lot of money. You want ideally many bowls of noodles, 10,000 bowls of noodles. But there is also a finite amount of noodles that you can make as a person.
You can
physically make with that, the pot in front of you, or the amount of soup you make, and so on. So they also face their own kind of like production capacity limits, just like us. But for us, the production capacity is very, very small. So we have to make kind of a reasonable amount of profit per project or per product. In order to
justify,
in order to survive, in order to make it so that we are not making a loss by offering you this very competitive price. And it goes to kind of like one of the reasons why I really, really dislike making certain products. So you have your chairs, you have your photo frames, you have your coasters, things like that.
I would say that, okay, before we move on to that, right, I would say that, like, at the start of our business, we did have this, in a sense, like, this argument about pricing as well. I remember at the start, I think
Pricing versus quantity.
pricing versus quantity.
Like low price, high quantity, or high price, low quantity.
Yeah, I guess so. But I had like similar sentiments to my dad, which is that why are we pricing it at very high cost? Because I think in my mind is also the same thing, which is we want to reach more masses. So wouldn't it be better to price it slightly lower? I mean, obviously not at the same price as like IKEA or like Shopee, that kind of prices. Like, we cannot reach those price. But it's just slightly lower.
Yeah.
But like yeah, like, which is I think affordable enough for uni students. I remember that part. Because at that time when we were starting out, it was just
after your graduation.
It was just small items. So we were only making small items. We haven't moved on to workshop or furniture yet. So I think in terms of small items, I have asked you, why don't we lower the price to make it affordable for uni students? Yeah. And then I think you said, no, I don't. No,
there is a longer argument that.
You didn't
no,
say
I
that.
don't want.
You didn't
There's a
say
longer
that.
argument than that. Okay.
You didn't say that.
Okay, so
that's like the TLDR.
Yeah, so I think it's good that you bring up IKEA and Shopee, which has kind of like two very different models. I talk about Shopee first and like how we are different from them, right? So most Shopee sellers, they are getting their items, their products from mass manufactured facilities, whether it's China, it's Vietnam, it's any location with very low cost in the volume. In other words, right, because they have a factory that is running like 1 million coasters, they are able to produce them very cheaply.
Is Shopee considered drop shipping?
More or less.
Oh, okay.
Most of them are drop shipping.
Oh, okay.
Right? Of course, we can't say everybody is that way, but most of them are drop shipping. Yeah. Then you compare and contrast that with us, right? In maybe like 3 meter by 3 meter studio, one worker.
Yeah.
And
one machine.
For me to create, just as a reference point, right? For me to create one coaster, that same coaster you see on Shopee for like less than $10, for me to create one coaster, it takes about 15 minutes of cutting.
1.5 or 5.0?
1.5.
Okay.
So I'll talk everything in 15 minutes.
Okay.
So 15 minutes of cutting,
okay.
15 minutes of shaping, 15 minutes of sanding, and 15 minutes of oiling. So that's about 1 hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
About there. So if I have a full 8-hour work day, I can maybe make 6 coasters.
Oh.
And I also want to have a reasonable work-life balance.
Yeah.
So I think to myself, okay, can I make that 8-hour shift worth my time in terms of salary?
Oh, right.
Right. So generally how I work it out, I will kind of make it a bit clearer later. But how I work it out, right, is one day I want to earn about $100 profit. Because when you kind of do the math, $100 per day over 30 days of working, you get $3,000 per month of profit. That is what I want to be able to give myself in terms of what I consider a fair salary. And we'll talk about salary a bit later, but generally speaking, I try to make $100 per day. If I made that one coaster over an 8-hour shift, I would be making about 6 coasters. Each coaster would cost 100 divided by 6, which is $17.
And $17, people are already finding it expensive.
Correct. If we sell a coaster at $17,
nobody will buy.
Nobody will buy. And that $17 coaster is the most basic coaster. It is the most like simple square-shaped coaster that doesn't take a lot
like
of...
no design, no nothing.
Yeah, correct. It has no added like
laser carving
value given from us in terms of customization. There's no carving, no laser. There's no, you cannot put your name on it. You cannot make it a special like strawberry shape. None of those things. And that alone would cost $17. No packaging also, $17. Right. So for us to try to make items like these, right, that are very low cost, high volume, we simply cannot compete with factories in China, factories in Vietnam, factories in other developing countries. It's just not possible. For us, where we come in as adding value to that shopping experience or that workshop experience is our number one, expertise and craftsmanship. Number two, our ability to personalize and customize to something that you want.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the values of the company, right, is we do believe in sustainability and responsible consumerism. We want you to buy something that you will value and treasure. We don't want you to, because it's cheap, you buy 10 and then if it spoils, you just throw it away. That's something that we don't want to do, which is why we put
We
a
don't
lot
want to do fast fashion.
Yeah, we don't want to do fast fashion. We don't want to do fast furniture.
Fast furniture.
So that's why we, put a lot of effort and care into kind of researching all the, let's say, all the ways, all the different materials, all the different finishing products to make sure that that is something that really you can take home and use for as long as you wish. Right. That's also why we keep our phone lines open. For anyone who does a serving board with us or does any kind of products with us, we also make sure that we are available to help them refinish or touch up any products that they have. We keep that line open because we want to maintain that responsibility over the service life of the things that we make. Right? Yeah. So let's talk about kind of how our workshop pricing works. We talk a lot about hypotheticals, about comparisons, right? But let's have a very clear kind of how Ugly Wood Company pricing works. Okay. Generally, there is two schools of thought. So the first one is you price something based on its material, its time, and its complexity.
Okay.
Okay, that's the first school of thought.
Okay.
Which is very, very traditional, very old school.
Okay.
The second school of thought, right, is you should price something based on how much someone would pay for it. So the second school of thought is demand and supply.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter. So for the second school of thought, right, it doesn't matter that I took only $10 to make a side table. If someone is willing to buy that side table off of my hands for $600, it doesn't matter that I only take $10 to make it.
Okay.
So I personally, I don't subscribe to the second model of pricing.
I can imagine the second model, the pricing will be quite chaotic in a sense.
The second model depends a lot on kind of like market research. You have to. So one of the reasons why I don't use the second model, right, is because I don't like to spend time chasing trends. I don't like to, go out there and look for specific. I don't like to go out there and look for specific things that is currently, the hot stuff and people want to buy. So I don't like to tune my business for that reason lah. So I am very much for the first school of thought, very traditional. How much does your material cost? How much does your time cost? How complex is it?
I would say it's easier to calculate also. Because it is, material cost is fixed. Your time, you also fixed it for yourself. The only thing is complexity where it's case by case basis. Whereas the second school of thought, one way you describe is it can be, okay, if I spend $10 just to make this, the cost is $10, but then someone is willing to take it off my hands for $600, okay, fine, you make a very high profit margin. But the other way can also happen, which is I spend $50 to make this, but the person only views it as a $10 product. So you can make a loss also. So that's why I say the second school of thought is quite chaotic in a sense that something that you value as very high value, it may not be the same for someone else. Especially for example, if you were to make plywood stuff, right? A lot of people would think that it is cheap so they would think that you sell for $100 but actually it's $600.
So that's one of the issues we commonly run into, right?
Obviously, you can go back later on also.
So that's one of the issues we commonly run into, right? Which is like our product doesn't look that premium or it doesn't look that expensive. Why does it cost so much?
Exactly.
So to slowly break down, right? So we have again material, time, complexity. So what does material mean? So material means all the lumber, firstly, usually lumber. So how much does kind of all the lumber you require cost? Okay. So just to give you a rough breakdown. So every time we do a project, right, generally speaking, not generally speaking. Every time we make a new product for someone or a custom project for someone, we will always make a 3D mock-up on a program called SketchUp.
Yeah.
Right? So you can probably see it somewhere here.
Okay.
So when we make that 3D SketchUp, right, it helps us visualize, number one, it helps the customer visualize also. But number two, right, more importantly, it helps us unpack into what wood is required. Okay?
Right.
So we always have like this kind of 2D map of like, this is how much square foot or square meter of wood that we require. And then we can use that to break down how many planks of wood we need or how many sheets we need to order from the supplier. Okay? Because all our products are built to order. We don't. Our studio does not have the space to stockpile a lot of material. So we tell our clients, right,
we are a BTO.
we are a BTO company. All our projects are built to order. If you want to see sample, you can only see what I have done for myself.
Or past works.
Any past work I made for a customer, they are already in the customer's hands.
You can only see photos, basically.
Correct. You can only see photos of clients' work.
Yeah.
You want to see, you can see my house furniture because I also make that myself. But so we make
but only
this
on appointment basis.
only on.
Don't come knocking.
Please don't come suddenly and call us to say that, oh, we are downstairs.
We are
at 129A. Where can we find your shop? Because there will be a time where we are not in.
And it happens before. We're not joking.
It happened twice.
So
please don't do that. Okay, but going back to so we have that material list. We know roughly how much we need to order from the supplier. That number, what we do is we do a 1.5 markup. Right?
Yeah.
So we'll add an extra 50%. Where does that 50% go into? So there are two things it goes into. First one is any spare materials we need to get. Right? So in woodworking, it is very dangerous to get exactly what you want. If you need exactly 3 sheets, if you buy exactly 3 sheets, what that means is that you can never make any mistakes.
Yeah.
Because any mistakes you cannot fix because you don't have the material to recut. The only way you can fix it is to shrink your project smaller by whatever mistake you make. That 150%, it will include any spare materials we need to buy, number one. Number two, it will also include any kind of additional consumables that are very hard to calculate. So for example, any kind of liquid like paint, oil finish, cleaner, things like that.
Yeah.
Any kind of screws. It's very hard to calculate one by one.
One screw.
Yeah, how do we calculate? This thing will take like 200 screws. So 200 screws equals like 0.01
Actually, you can calculate one.
It's
whether you
hard.
want to.
No, it's damn hard because
you can take like the box of screw, right? Then the box got 500. So you calculate one screw cost how much. Then after that, you see your box. Okay, I use 4 screw.
Okay, I'm gonna throw
like 15 cents.
I'm gonna throw another wrench into that possibility because I got to think about it.
You can calculate one. It's whether you want.
You don't buy screw in terms of number of pieces. You buy screw by
box,
weight. You buy screw by weight.
It's not box.
So the box is 1 kilo. They will just tell you this box is 1 kilo.
They don't say by how many?
I used to think
I always thought it's by how many.
I used to think it's always like 100 pieces or 200 pieces. Because I think somebody told me it was like, this is 100 screws. And then like I went to check the bag, right? It just says 1 kg. It just says like the screw specification and just say 1 kg.
Oh really?
Yeah. So then that's when I realized, I cannot trust the order. I always thought like, if I buy 1 screw, right, I have 100 pieces, I can use it for like 1 month. But then I realized actually no, it's not. If you have a small screw, you have 200. If you have a big screw, you have 50. Something like that. So it's like, I learned to...
I always thought it's by pieces.
I learned to stop trusting them.
Okay, then cannot.
Okay. And then the last thing it also includes any kind of maintenance that we need to do for our equipment. So, for example, we use saw blades. Saw blades will get blunt. If we use drill beats will get blunt or they'll break. So, that 50% markup goes into all these...
Preventive maintenance.
All these things like preventive maintenance, additional consumables, things like that.
Yeah.
Right. So, how I like to say to my clients, right, is if there's any extra from that 50%, we will keep. If it costs more than 150% to make a product, for example, we miscalculated or we messed up, we will just take from our profit. We don't ask you, actually,
or you won't change the pricing.
Correct, I won't change the pricing because I feel that I was the one who made the mistake in that calculation. Okay. Where I will change the price, of course, if the client asks for something different lah. If originally we agreed on a 1 meter table, suddenly they say they want a 1.5 meter, obviously the price needs to change. But in the case where we are doing something that we agree upon, and then the cost turns out to be wrong, and I cannot communicate to you that the price is wrong, I will just absorb the cost. I think that is a fair statement because I don't think it's fair, right, if I take your 50%, no, I could less than 50%. I take your markup if you use less markup than necessary, but I ask you for more money when I don't have enough from the markup.
Does this happen very often?
I think it's 50-50, generally speaking. Because I think if you count it all the way, right, we earn from this kind of material component, we earn maybe 10%, 20% only. Like, we barely earn anything. Like anything, if anything, right, the one thing we earn a lot, right, is we have a lot of spare wood. There's very odd sizes. Because they are offcuts from wood. But in terms of like actual money spent, we don't earn that much. The way I see it, right, is that means that the craftsmanship was done right and no mistakes were made. On the other hand, right, if I mess up, I did something wrong, I screw too much in or I cut wrong, then naturally it makes sense that as the business owner, as the supplier, I am covering that cost.
Yeah.
Right. So we have that kind of. I don't want to hassle you again because hey, sorry, I cut wrong. I need to get another extra like $200 to buy more wood. Don't make sense.
Right? It happened for our ID, but that's one.
Yeah, in the ID industry, it happens quite often, and I mean, we will move on.
No
we'll just talk
comments.
about our own business lah. Okay. So that is material cost, right? So how and why we take a markup. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 2 is time. So what we mean by time is our time as professionals in the workshop. So how that works is, generally speaking, this is, of course, it will change, but generally speaking, how we do it, right, is for custom furniture, we charge around $150 per day.
Yeah.
Okay, so that means that if your project takes 5 days to make, we will charge you $150 times 5, which is $750 roughly. Okay, so generally this is how we charge. So again, right, it goes back to kind of like that original number we're talking about. As a professional, I want to earn a certain salary so that I can feed my family, so that I can have a reasonable work-life balance, and so on. So $150 per day amounts to somewhere that is a safe amount for us to work and live with. It's a fair rate for a professional, I feel.
Okay? Yeah.
If we kind of break it down a bit more, right, Nicole, if you were a fresh grad going into a professional industry, okay, so you're like a qualified industry professional, you're not like an entry level, how much do you think your salary should be?
I think one thing, it depends on the major, but I would say just like on average, I want to say 3,000.
Okay, so 3,000, right? And then
3,005.
Generally speaking, right, 1 month you have about 20 working days. Okay, it goes out to about 22, but I'll just round it down to 20 because you also have all your MC, you also have all your benefits, holidays, your leave days, etc. So I'll just round it down to 20. If you take that 3,000, you divide by 20, it gets to $150. That's how we calculate $150 for our professional.
I said 3,500.
Oh, 3,500. Then I need to recalculate. But $100 to $200 per day.
Okay.
$100 to $200 per day, right?
$150 to
$200 per day. Okay, sorry. Yeah, but that is roughly a rate that is fair. For us, we have been doing woodworking for about 6 years at part-time, 3 years full-time professionally. Right? So, and also I come in with the background of design and architecture with a master's background. So coming in, I feel that it is only fair that I at least earn a fresh grad salary. Okay? So when we put $150, that's how we justify that number to ourselves, to our families, and so on. Okay? Where that changes a bit is if you are doing workshops. Okay? Just now we were talking about furniture, $150 per day for maybe a 2-week project, like a table set, a dining table set. Where that changes a bit in terms of time is when we are talking about workshops. So for workshops, right, one of the things is you can't really calculate your design time, or you can't calculate any kind of like value added time, like taking the time to clean up the finish,
Oh, okay.
final touches lah.
Uh-huh.
So you can only calculate by workshop time.
Okay.
So which is how much time they spend in our studio itself. So for that reason, and the second reason being that they are receiving guidance from a professional.
Yeah.
For that reason, right, each day is $300 for the clients coming in. So
Each day as in your one, is it a half day or full day?
okay, so how we calculate by one day, right, is so our client so workshops, when they are building their own materials, custom workshops, they will come in at 10 a.m. generally. They will come in at 10 a.m. They will end the day at 5 to 6 p.m. depending on whether they end finish.
Yeah.
They have 1 hour lunch break. Okay, so for that one whole day is $300. They can also opt to take 2 half-day shifts, which is 10 to 1 or 2 to 5. They will also cost $150 per half-day shift. Okay, so if you're doing something small, naturally it will only cost $150 because it doesn't take that long to make.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something quite complex, it can take like over 2 weekends, so 4 days, or it can take over 2 days, or some people also say, I don't need 1 full day in the workshop because, for example, my project needs time to dry, like glue or finish. So I split into Saturday and then the next Saturday. That's also another system that can work. So they'll pay 150
Yeah.
for that time component.
Yeah, you're just calculating by how many days it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't matter which day they book, but just number of days.
So for most 90% of clients, right, the material plus the time it's sufficiently a full quotation for them already, generally speaking. Okay, then you have your last component, complexity. So when does complexity come in? So there are 2 kinds of complexity. One is complexity in production. Second is complexity in delivery.
Okay.
So one of the things we don't think about, right, is
transport.
Because sometimes people will ask us like, I want a 3-meter long table. Can you bring it to my tiny shop house in Jalan Kayu or some very small place that has no lift? So these are kind of really miscellaneous factors that we only think about because we have experience. We literally encountered situations where we forgot to charge someone for all these additional kind of like manpower
transport costs,
labor costs.
Yeah.
So that complexity is just kind of like a miscellaneous thing. When we talk about complexity in craft, it is simply how complex your project is. Most projects, they fall in the same level of complexity, which is just kind of that one-size-fits-all standard, which we don't add any extra cost. Where complexity comes in, right, usually is in terms of they need something very, very specific. They want the walnut that comes from this specific tree in Brazil, or they want this specific style of very sculptural project. All these kind of very, very unique requests, those are the cases where we add in any kind of complexity cost.
The origin of the wood counts towards complexity.
So complexity generally means, right, how difficult it is to do, how rare it is for any other Singapore provider to provide this service, or how difficult it is to just kind of whether it is to procure something or to make something. Right. It's just this kind of like additional extra factor that we factor in when there are things that are exceptionally difficult or exceptionally unheard of.
I think like I didn't think that you actually factored in the origin of, or like the difficulty of getting certain materials into the complexity, because I thought your complexity is just it just means how complex the design is. So, or like how difficult it is to make.
So normally that's what we think of first. But usually the thing is, for those situations, right, those are things that you can just factor into time. If something you think is very difficult but it's not very big, you just say, okay, I will take 3 days to make instead of 1 day to make, because you are giving yourself the allowance to fail in case you fail. Then if you don't fail, then okay, you give yourself an additional allowance, like buffer for the rest of the steps, which is always a good thing. It's always good to give yourself buffer. But complexity specifically, right, I'm thinking about where things are hard to replace. Because when we talk about kind of very rare wood, right, or sometimes, right, specifically something that has a sentimental value to someone,
Okay.
So let's say they bring in something that is like their own sentimental value, like their old house door or their old dog's, like sleeping like pen or whatever.
Okay.
And then they'll ask us, oh, can you, upcycle this? Can you make into some memento I can
Ah.
keep? Those cases, right, where I cannot afford to make mistakes. Those are cases where I will charge extra because I cannot afford to make mistakes. I cannot say like, oh, if I mess up something, I just buy I just get new plywood and do again. I cannot do that. So in those cases, right, I need to make sure that it works. Rush orders are also considered under complexity because
rush orders can understand.
Rush orders are just, normally we have a timeline of 2 to 3 weeks. Suddenly you say, oh, I need this by Friday.
Tomorrow.
No lah, there's very little things I can do by tomorrow.
The thing don't even have time to dry.
Correct, like our things cannot even dry in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So generally speaking, that's how our studio figures out our pricing, right? So if you find something that is exceptionally pricey, generally means that it's not something you can find in Singapore, or it's something that is very, very hard to make because of the complexity.
So one question, is our prices negotiable? Like if let's say someone finds it, okay, let's say they want to do a custom project with you.
Yes.
And they find that, okay, it is on the pricey side, would you be willing to negotiate down a bit?
Yes. So we have encountered this situation many times, right? So we, especially for custom projects, we always say that our prices are negotiable, because again, right, we go back to a kind of like our core company value of we want this to be something that you value. Right, so we don't want you to feel like you're forced to come into this position. You're forced to buy it or you're forced to make this. So we will always do it in such a way that you obviously have your dream request. Oh, I want my amazing mahogany table that is like this size, this shape, has this feature. And then you see, like, we will give you the price tag, we'll give you a quotation that is most likely out of your expectation. This happens with about 30% of our clients. It's just outright out of their expectation. And then just let us know. And then we will say that, okay, if you have a budget in mind, let us know. One of the questions I always ask clients, or I always get annoyed when they don't want to share price, because money is a sensitive topic. But please let us know your budget, because we want to make something that works for you. We really don't want to do something that we don't want to waste our time doing the design and all that. And then you say like, so much I don't want already. Then we would have wasted all our time doing the design, doing the conversations, getting to know kind of what is your requirement, when you already know in your mind, oh, I'm not going to spend more than $500. We would rather you tell us you're not going to spend more than $500. We will find a way to make $500 fit for you, whether it is by simplifying the design, simplifying the materials, or just some other way. We will try to make it for you. We are not in a position, right, where we
must have these $500.
Correct. Like, we don't enforce that, oh, you must get this thing at this price. Because everybody, we understand people who approach us, they love and they appreciate wood for its like characteristic as a material in furniture. We know that people love wood. We don't want to be the one to like tell you, hey, this piece of wood is like, is meant for the super upper class. It's not meant for you. You cannot afford it. we are not like selling Mercedes or like like some supercar. We're not pushing people away. We really just want something that works for you at a price that works for you. And if that means simplifying, we will explain what things we change to make it affordable.
I think maybe trying to think from their perspective, right? Trying to play devil's advocate here. So it's like, I think, right, maybe what people don't realize is that maybe they feel that they don't know how the design can be simplified to lower their budget, to lower the price. I mean, so then like, I don't know, maybe they just feel that they don't want to go through that process of discussing.
Okay, so I will be very upfront with everybody who's watching, right, or like even future clients, right. Our process and our value add and our unique selling point, right, comes from the fact that we try to have a customized, tailored, personalized service for you. That's what makes us different from IKEA, from Shopee, from any other furniture store that exists. Because they will give you a catalog, you tell them what you want, they will send it to you by the weekend. That's how they work. The way we work, right, because we are custom, we are very boutique, we try our best to make something that suits you. Almost nothing we make, right, are replicas of a previous project. So that means that we actually have to spend time getting to know you, getting to understand your needs.
Yeah.
Right? And some people come in with the expectation, oh, I'm just here to buy a table. Not realizing that a table can be so complex. Not realizing that, there is a difference between a study table to a dining table to a bedside table.
It's not just one plank and 4 legs.
Correct. To them, it's just 4 planks and 1 leg. We will ask...
4 planks and 1 leg?
Sorry. It's not just 4 legs and 1 plank. I need to eat already. Yeah, so it's not just like 4 legs and 1 plank, right? It's like, it can be something as simple as, do you see yourself kind of moving this table very often? Do you see yourself butting this table against the wall, or it's like free in the open? All those affect the design decisions. I come from a design background. My value add, my love for this process is the problem solving stage. I enjoy the problem solving stage more than I enjoy actual woodworking. So where I come in, right, is to help you problem solve.
You should be a consultant.
If you're looking for a consultant, you can email us at uglywoodcompany@gmail.com.
It's a former what's that thing called?
Job application.
Yeah, former job application.
Yeah, but anyway, so we really are in kind of a position to help you out to solve the problem exactly the way you need it to be solved. That's what we are here for. If you just want a simple table, just go IKEA. If it's too tall, cut down the legs. If it's too short, buy a taller table. Because I really, really think that you get those kind of furniture, right? Because you are in the fast furniture kind of mindset. You just want to get something quick, get it out of the way, and move on with your life. And really, like, no offense to anybody like that. We understand. We also have IKEA furniture like that. Nicole is also begging me to buy IKEA furniture like that.
There are times where, because I want to have a display cabinet or a shoe bench, so I've been waiting for him to make one. But because there are like a lot of other backlog projects,
there are customers in
there are actually customers in front of
paying for
paying customers. I'm not paying for anything. Like, this is coming out of our own pocket. So it's like, so there are times where I have asked him, can I just buy a like IKEA shelf just to like get it over with?
I will make our shoe cabinet properly.
Then I'll wait like 5 years later.
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah. So if you are the mindset, right, that you really just need something by this weekend, you really just need to put your shoe somewhere, please just go to one of these
by all means
fast furniture shops. We really, like, nothing against you, don't hold anything against us.
No judgment there.
We just need you to understand where we are coming from.
Yeah.
Right. But it really gets into kind of the bigger topic of why we cannot compete with places like IKEA and other furniture stores. Some people have this impression that because we offer plywood, why are we still so much more expensive than IKEA?
I think people have a pretty common understanding or misunderstanding that like plywood is cheap. Which I mean, I don't really blame them, because
technically plywood is cheap.
Yeah, but I think when it comes to our case, is the quality of the plywood. Like, I also know this after seeing you do woodworking, right? That like plywood has different grades. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk about. Okay. So we will talk a bit about plywood. Then we will talk about why we cannot compete with IKEA, right? So for plywood has different grades. I won't talk about how plywood is made first, but plywood has different grades. If you buy, anyone who just renovated their homes, they will know that most of their built-up furniture like cabinets, kitchen, cupboards, things like that, they are made from plywood with the selected laminate on top, which is like a layer of plastic that has like the perfect color that they have chosen. So they can make their Instagrammable kitchen the exact same color and shade that they are looking for. Whether it's black, it's blue, it's green, it's some shade of wood, it doesn't matter because that layer is plastic, you just print on it.
Yeah.
Right? What matters is actually what is inside. So plywood has many different grades, and IKEA uses not even just plywood, they also use another two materials called MDF and chipboard. Okay?
What does MDF stand for?
So MDF stands for medium density fiberboard. So that is made up of compacted sawdust. The lower grade ones can even be made of, not MDF specifically, but the lower grade IKEA furniture, especially the ones you feel that are very light for what it is, the size that it is, it can be made of just like cardboard. Right?
Huh?
Yeah, paper,
Cardboard?
cardboard, fiber, cardboard.
Have these kind of things?
You never seen before.
I never noticed.
Yeah. But yeah.
I never go and look at what material it is.
Yeah, so kind of all those things factor into how strong and reliable that plywood is. Because the different qualities of it, generally, right, to cut a long story short, the plywood that we use is what we call, or what the industry calls, birch plywood. It is a premium plywood. It is generally supplied from Europe or Russia or basically any cold country. It is stronger, more reliable than the normal plywood that you're getting because it is made of thinner layers, and all the layers they have vetted through to make sure there are no like big gaps between the plywood. If you see any gap, at most it is like maybe 3 mm, small gap, like just a small hole. Whereas if you get your plywood from places like Indonesia, Malaysia, or any other kind of Southeast Asian country, you might be getting them with kind of big gaps in between or hollow in between. So that is a possibility. So our plywood cost, right, compared to the cheaper plywood, it's already about 2.5 times more expensive. The second thing, right, is in terms of safety. So when you cut plywood, okay, when you manufacture plywood, you need to use glue. You need to use kind of industry glue that has a lot of...
I was just thinking about what glue do they use.
You need to use a glue that uses... previously they use a lot of formaldehyde because it's cheap and it gets the job done. So what happens is, a lot of times when you make your house, your renovation out of this kind of wood, you will notice that there's this smell. And you will notice that if in the worst case scenario, you will start to feel like a spiciness in your nose, a spiciness in your eyes. Your eyes get very dry, very itchy. Okay, so that is a mix of sawdust or just any kind of construction dust plus formaldehyde. Because it is actually irritating your eyes, irritating your nose.
This was on the news
This was
for a period of time.
So it was on the news because the government is trying to kind of crack down on it and enforce kind of low formaldehyde pieces. The wood that we get, because they are coming out from Europe, they have to pass the Europe... What is it called? What is the Europe organization called?
EU.
The European Union. So they have to pass the European Union's like very stringent safety standards.
I would say their safety laws are very strict.
So how that translates to me, right? Initially when I first used it, I couldn't tell the difference because the plywood we will get from regionally is, let's say, $30 a sheet. The plywood I'm getting from European Union is $150 a sheet, which is insane at that time. Now the prices are a bit different, but it was insane at that time, especially because. But the immediate things I noticed, right, is when you try to cut Indonesian plywood, you will notice the smell. But when you try, so you notice as well, right? But when you try to cut birch plywood, right, the smell disappears after like 10 seconds. Like what you're smelling is literally wood smell. It smells like the tree that you just freshly cut.
So it doesn't smell that toxic.
Right. So the plywood,
or like that chemical.
The plywood that we use for all our clients for public facing work, it's always we use birch plywood. We sometimes still get we still use our own like Indonesian plywood. Usually that is like the backstock, or we will use it when we are manufacture a lot of what we consider shop furniture. So knock down furniture, things that are just to put up a shelf in the studio.
Like it's for our own internal use.
It's for internal use only. So we don't use the high-end furniture because it's quite expensive to use high-end furniture when you just doing something that is intended for like a jig or something like that. Okay, so going back to IKEA, right? Like why we can't compete with IKEA. So we alluded to this a bit earlier about like why our services are different. But I think most importantly, right, is when you are doing mass manufacturing and cheap materials, right, there is no way you can compete. Nobody in the industry at the moment, right, can compete with IKEA. That is, we are talking about traditional furniture stores, modern furniture stores. Nobody can compete with IKEA on price at all. It is not even close.
Not like with other than like Taobao that kind
My
of
understand. Okay, so my in my reading of kind of how IKEA works, right, is that they have managed to secure what is essentially the whole supply chain. So they already have their own forest, they have their own lumber yard, they have their own production facility, processing facility, and then they have their own production facility and they have their own shops.
Yeah.
So from top to bottom, right, everything is controlled by them. They're buying forests, right, to supply wood only for IKEA. Not even McDonald's can do that. Even for McDonald's, right, they are having contracts with farms that supply them, but the farms are still okay to supply other.
It's not exclusive.
It's not an exclusive relationship, not for every ingredient.
Right.
IKEA has done that for almost every material, but most importantly, right, their baseline kind of wood, lumber, like the lumber supply, that is 100% in their own control. So there is no way we can beat that. The only close match to IKEA, right, is Taobao and China basically. But China works because labor is cheap.
True.
So comparing these two, right, and then you compare to Singapore, compared to me, Glennard, in Agro company, my labor is not cheap compared to China. I cannot work on China wages, I have tried. Okay, and my material is expensive because I don't control any of a forest. Okay, I cannot cut down my own wood to process my own. I don't have my own processing facility. So that's why I cannot compete with IKEA. When clients come, when prospective clients come in and say, hey, how come IKEA can sell $80, you have to sell $200? I tell them I don't own a forest, I don't own a factory.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can always get the $80 thing from
Let's
IKEA.
buy from there.
Yeah. you need your table to be longer, you tell IKEA to make longer for you. So some people have also asked me, right, like, why don't you just take IKEA furniture and modify them? And I don't do that, I think, out of principle. I don't like to modify other people's work. Right. Because for one is practical reason, is in terms of finishing or paint, right? Like when you cut off, you need to refinish that area that you cut off. Otherwise, it's exposed to humidity and air. But if I don't use the same finish that they use, we might end up damaging each other. So for example, my finish doesn't mesh with their finish, or their finish make my finish less effective. Things like that. Right. But second thing, I think it's more principle. I don't really want to modify an existing piece unless there are very extreme circumstances. There are very, very unique circumstances, of which case I have not encountered yet. So most of them I've rejected so far. I understand, so I fully understand in the pursuit of sustainability, right? It is most important to kind of make sure your furniture lasts and fix whenever you can instead of buy. I understand that, I fully understand that. I just feel that I don't have the correct skill set to fix something.
Yeah, speaking of like refurbishments, right? So you have turned down jobs for people asking to refurbish old furniture. So my understanding is the last time when that happened, you said it's because you don't know what goes into making that furniture. So correct. You are scared of actually ruining that furniture.
Yeah. So I am scared of ruining that furniture, right? Because I don't know how it's made, or I don't know whether underneath it is the material I'm thinking of.
Oh, and also to add on, right, you have also said that refurbishment actually, like going back to pricing, is actually like quite expensive.
It's very expensive.
And like normally people will think that, it should be correct. Cheap, what? Because I supply you the material already. Correct. So like, why is it still so expensive? Yeah. Then I might as well just buy another table.
Yeah. So refurbishment. So to talk about those two things, right? So first one is I don't know how or what it's made of. So if I use my equipment on it, will I damage it? Will it damage my equipment?
Yeah.
Right. So like if there are any hidden nails that I don't know, if I cut with a saw, I am endangering me. Not even spoiling my equipment, but it could be a dangerous thing to operate.
Right.
That's the first factor. Then second factor is time. So we talk about kind of you just found out how our workshop works in terms of time. If I told somebody, hey, this chair takes 2 days to fix, it costs $300. Nobody will take that offer. People will say, $300, I might as well buy like 4 more chairs.
Like...
right?
Yeah.
So it is almost never something that is worthwhile doing lah.
Yeah.
That so far I've only encountered one scenario where people are willing to pay, which is they have this very nice like antique table. They don't mind paying me like a few $100s to go down, sand everything, refinish everything. And I think that goes down to kind of like the value aspect of the different products that woodworking has, wooden products that exist, and why I in particular hate making chairs or like photo frames or coasters like this. Okay, so first and foremost, right, if you talk about just now what we said, the demand versus supply kind of perspective, most people are not prepared mentally, right, to pay a lot for a chair or a photo frame or a coaster. Most people
what's
are
your
not.
definition of a lot?
For a chair, right, I would say anything more than $300-400 for a very simple chair. For a photo frame, I would say anything more than $30 for a very simple photo frame. So photo frames that industry has been basically destroyed by IKEA lah. IKEA has released
Daiso
$10 frames. Yeah, Daiso has
Daiso
released
also.
$2 frames.
Yeah.
So that one I'm going to just put that out of the way. But specifically for chairs, right? I think chairs is such a unique case in woodworking because if anyone thinks of wood, they will think of chairs and tables first. Generally at the
wooden
dining
chair,
table. Right. So that's a very classic thing. But if you find out that to actually manufacture a chair, right, it takes a lot more technique and a lot more machining compared to a table. Right. So it goes back to time and complexity because even though it takes less material, you have to engineer it to absorb a lot more forces. If you think about a table, right, like we talk about dining table, you are encountering generally 2 or 3 forces, not a lot also. One, the force downwards, which is kind of like, when anyone sits on the table or anyone puts pressure on the table, put stuff on the table. So downward pressure, more straightforward. Second is you are encountering what I call shear forces, which is when you drag the table. So the table will flex a bit in terms of the legs.
Right.
Okay. And then lastly is making sure that how do you call it? It's only 2 forces. It's only these 2 forces.
For table and
for
chair?
For tables only.
Oh, table only. Okay.
So it's just downward force and the dragging
lateral
force, shearing force.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm using the word wrong. I'm not an engineer, but the lateral force, right? When you talk about chair, right, it is so much more complex because especially a chair with a back. A chair without a back is just a small table.
Just a stool.
It's just a stool. It's just a small table. So,
it's just a small table.
So some of it applies, but some of it doesn't. Okay. But if you talk about specifically a chair with a back, right, first is you need to make sure the entire back doesn't flex.
Right.
First one. Okay, and then they're all straight. Second one is people abuse a chair a lot more than they abuse a table. Okay, so for example, they sit down flat, which is downward force, but they also drag it, which is lateral force, which also a table experiences, but they also rock on it. They rock forward and they rock backwards. Okay? And because it's smaller, people are also more likely to just kind of like drag it or carry it or like swing it around when they are packing things up. They are packing things up. It's very possible. It's very common. That's why plastic chairs are so popular.
They swing.
No, so you just like take and then like just leave it, throw it somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But
swing a wooden chair.
All this comes to just like kind of like
so
a chair is experiencing so much force.
Yeah.
And then you
so
come
much
to
abuse.
So much abuse. And then the third factor, right, which I think is the most difficult to work around, right, is a chair has to look more sleek than a table. When you have a table that is like a meter long or 1.5 meter long, right, the leg can be reasonably chunky. And it will still be,
It has a certain charm.
It has its own charm lah. So obviously people who want very sleek looking tables, very thin looking tables, they will just opt for wood. They will just opt for metal. So people who want wood, obviously they are okay with like a certain substance, certain thickness.
Certain chunk.
Thickness.
No.
Okay? But when you think about a chair, right, like if I use that same level of thickness, right, proportionally it looks damn weird on a chair. Like I cannot make a chair that's like this chunky, and then I cannot make a chair that's like this chunky in the legs.
It's just like a banquet chair.
Yeah, like if a chair is too straight, right, it also
it's
is
just a block.
Correct, it just looks like a block. It looks like a Minecraft chair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you have these kind of three-ish, 3.5-ish challenges, design challenges you need to solve with a chair, and then you need to make them more or less perfect. Because with a table, right, if they are slanted, you kind of just need to fix one. Maybe worst case scenario, you need to fix 2 legs. A chair is very easy to notice when kind of anything is off balance.
Yeah.
So it needs more precision also.
Right.
So all those reasons, right, they make chair making so much more difficult that if you are a chair maker, it is a specialty. It is a specialization.
Yeah, then plus they also have like, I would say, additional safety aspect. Like you sit down, you wouldn't expect your chair to suddenly collapse.
But you also do that for table. So,
but table collapse, you won't hurt yourself.
No lah, nobody engineers a chair to like, not hurt
You know
someone.
the cartoon, then like, no, it just has split.
It's not like the emergency glass, like, must break into multiple small pieces. No, I don't think anybody engineers for that lah. So when I tell people, right, a chair would cost half the price of one table, people will be like, their mind will be blown because they are expecting to get 4 chairs and they don't expect the 4 chairs to be expensive.
Yeah.
Nobody, like, if you tell someone, right, okay, you're going to buy a table for $1,000.
Nobody bats an eye.
Nobody, but if you're going to tell them, oh, the 4 chairs will cost $1,500, people will be like, what the
Yeah.
People will be like,
yeah, that's true.
What the heck?
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why it's a very common strategy, right, to sell it in a set. So you kind of you balance out all the prices between all the
economies of scale.
The 4 different components, 5 different components basically. Yeah, which sometimes we think about it also, but generally we have not come across any customers who are looking for the whole set. Generally they're just looking for 1 and 1 chair or 1 and 1 bench. Then we're like, okay, we will just do the table that's at this price.
So if someone comes and asks you, I want to make a chair, you outright reject? Like you just say like, no, sorry, we don't do this. Or do you try to like talk to the customer a bit?
Okay, right now I have 2 customers ongoing that are looking for chairs. I haven't get back to them. I think we've been on call for like 1 week plus, 2 weeks. But I don't have an answer for them because I don't know how to make a chair that justifies their time. So I will give you the answer when I find out.
But stools are fine.
Stools are fine.
Stools we have no problem.
Reasonable.
Just a small table. Just a width of table.
Yeah. So that's the... So that's why I hate making chairs, and
why you never make chairs?
I don't even make chairs for myself. Even my own chairs are from IKEA.
Oh yeah. When people come over, they will ask us like, is the chair you make one? It's like, no, it's IKEA.
Do you make all the furniture yourself? Yeah, everything except the chair.
Except the chair, yeah. Because our chair is wooden also.
Yeah.
So it looks like, you make yourself.
It looks like the same.
Yeah. It looks like the same set one.
Yeah.
No, we're not that skilled.
Okay. Then I think that wraps things up. And before we go, we would like to give our lovely listeners some unsolicited advice. So every week we will give our listeners some advice that may or may not pertain to their life. In this week, Nicole will be giving her advice.
To all the new homeowners renovating, don't use vinyl flooring.
Thank you for listening to the Ugly Wood Company podcast. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode. In the meantime, if you're interested in booking our services, please go to our website at www.uglywoodcompany.com and use the coupon code UWCpodcast for 10% off. That's UWCPODCAST. Links in the description. Till next week.
I'm very scared you go to the phone and then you realize, hey, not recording.
Yeah, also.